of the NITI Aayog, Amitabh Kant, he was right in the start of the budget speech by the finance minister, also mentioned in it. We're really trying to get a sense about what the budget is all about and also try and understand what he thinks about it. Mr. Amitabh Kant, very welcome on Republic TV. My first question going to be, what is the sense you're making of the budget? Do you think an achievable target has been set when it comes to disinvestment? There's a target of 1,05,000 crore rupees. How achievable is it?
Well, let me first thank the finance minister for having mentioned NITI Aayog and acknowledged it right in the beginning. Already a $2.7 trillion economy. We've been growing at 7.5% in the last 5 years. We need to grow at 8% in the next 5 years. And to my mind, this is very much doable. This is doable because, firstly, a vast range of structural reforms have earlier been carried out. They slow down the economy for 2 years, but then they accelerate the economy subsequently. And I'm quite hopeful that measures like GST and IBC will accelerate India's growth process. But today's budget does a lot in terms of adding liquidity, 70,000 crores to the banks. It pushes for about 100 lakhs for infrastructure sector in the next 5 years. It pushes a lot. We were in the midst of an NBFC and HFC issue. It brings that issue center stage, brings it under regulation, but it also provides a stop back from the government for the pool of assets, that the first 10% will be met by the government. It pushes for strategic disinvestments in public sector in a very big way. Yes. He reiterates the commitment of the government. It talks about asset monetization. Yes. And to my mind, modes like InvITs, REITs will be used for mobile towers, for gas grids, for pipelines, etc. So in the due course, you will see a lot of private sector through this 100 lakh of infrastructure, through this, and through capitalization. And when you are pushing for every house to have electricity, every individual family to have houses, when you're pushing for cooking gas, when you're pushing for about 135 kilometers a day of rural roads and about 40 kilometers of urban roads, you're creating a lot of economic activity. And in most of these activities, you'll see private sector play, and you'll see the rise of the animal spirits of the private sector.
So very well put. That comes to my second question. This is a version that really talks about something that India should be by 2020. It's something for the next 20 years. But should not this have been something that could have been more time specific to have been a real game changer? What about transparency? What about something that could have been in a time frame which could have really shown us that some difference couldn't be made quickly?
Well, everything is quickly. I mean, if you're talking about strategic disinvestment, this is all for the next year. The budget is for this year. The budget is for this year. Everything is for this year. The startup benefits are for this year. The push for infrastructure is for this year.
But do you think it would be transparent enough?
Of course, 100% transparency. This government only believes in transparency. So you'll see a lot of transparency across every single activity. You'll see a huge impetus to implementation on ground as a consequence of
what do you think? What about the 3.3% fiscal deficit? Is that also achievable?
Well, I think she's been very fiscally responsible. Very prudent. You know, for a finance minister to have done so much but stuck to 3.3 is a very right course to take. We should not ever become fiscally irresponsible. It has huge implications on the other side. But within that means, she's talked about many other innovative ways. For instance, the finance minister talks about getting external funding for projects through using, lending at low rates using sovereign ratings. And you can use a proxy like Exim Bank to raise a lot of external resources on long-term basis, because India is short of long-term resources at low interest rates, whereas countries like Japan have that. And we should mobilize that because our total debt, sovereign debt, is still at low levels. She talks about that.
Okay, also I wanted to know, what about the Aam Aadmi? Of course, we've seen a lot of things happening, but again, the question here, when it comes to water for all by 2024, when it comes to electricity by 2022, it seems the vision is there, but it's long term.
No, so you have to start activity from tomorrow. Okay. In fact, the Jal Shakti Abhiyan has already started from day before.
Okay.
So the work has already been cracked on ground in many of these things.
And you're involved with everything?
In each one of these activities, NITI Aayog is involved, whether it's housing or it's gas connections or this, and there's a lot of activity going on ground. So it's all happening from day before.
You're involved with everything? What all are you involved with as NITI Aayog?
Yeah, of course. We're involved with the aspirational district. And out of the 112 aspirational districts, 23 of these are water impacted, and therefore we are pushing for them in a very big way.
Okay. Now also I wanted to come to the hike on gold and the duty that's been imposed. This is something, gold is something traditionally that conservative Indian families believe is their security. To put some sort of a hike on it, is this accurate? Is this apt?
So how does an economy grow? You save, you invest, you manufacture, you export. But if you keep saving all your money in gold, how does the economy benefit? How does the economy benefit? And it's very important to put your savings into investments and kickstart your economy. So to my mind, is the right thing to do.
Okay. And also there have been tax announcements, there have been several things that have been said. The super rich have been taxed. What according to you is something that comes to your mind as something that would be favorable in this budget?
Well, I think taxing the super rich is a good thing. It's a favorable thing to do, simply because there's wide disparity in the country.
Yes.
You need to provide nutrition, you need to provide education, you need to provide health, you need to lift your backward districts above the state's average, and therefore, where do you raise your resources from? The same thing can be said about putting the cess on petrol and diesel.
Yes.
But somebody needs to pay for this. If you need the country to grow at rapid rates of 9 to 10%, you and I must sacrifice for today so that the country must grow at 9 to 10% tomorrow. And if we don't sacrifice today, the country will never be able to grow tomorrow.
Okay, and also, what according to you is one of the things that stands out in your mind? Is it the electrical mobility? Is it the push that's being given to employment via the fact that there are going to be startups? This is the largest manufacturing in solar energy and computer manufacturing. What is it, the one thing that strikes you in the budget the finance minister has given?
So I think there are four remarkable things about this budget. The first and foremost is that this budget really pushes for the startup ecosystem. It pushes it in a big way of, providing exemption on angel tax, on alternative investment funds getting angel tax exemption and so on. So our attempt is to create the best ecosystem for startups in the world. That's number one. Number two, I think it really pushes for digital payments in a very big way, that it says that people who withdraw cash beyond 1 crore will be taxed at 2%. And that money will be used really to benefit merchant bankers who are using digital payments.
Okay.
So the push for digital payment is very welcome in this country, and therefore, in fact, digital payments will get a big thrust. The third is that this budget really pushes for electric mobility, which is where the measures of providing 10,000 crores for FAME 2, providing tax incentive on loans for electric vehicles will really accelerate the process of electric mobility, which is what the country needs, because you need to clean up your cities, you need to provide clean, fresh air to the citizens of India, and you need to rise this revolution of electric mobility which is happening across the world and become a global leader in that. And fourthly, I think the key thing is that this is the first time any budget has talked about sunrise areas of growth. The sunrise areas of gigafactories, of PV manufacturing, and of large-scale laptop or computer manufacturing.
That's right.
Some of the big ticket things by saying that we'll extend 35 AD, that is accelerated depreciation for that. So